So we've got some news to talk about when it comes to the Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings. Yeah, we're going to combine these into one video because I do feel like Canadiens fans can get a kick out of both their news and the Wings news, and also because I happen to cheer for these two teams. So let's go out there and cater to my interests, shall we? Starting out with the earliest piece of news from this morning. Take a look at what was tweeted out by the Montreal Canadiens on Twitter. They have relieved goaltending coach Eric Raymond of his duties. And this came at a pretty interesting time. A lot of folks going out there and asking whether or not it was actually worthwhile to fire the goaltending coach at this stage of the season. But when thinking about the Montreal Canadiens goaltending situation, we had already made a video earlier in today's show discussing Marc-Andre Fleury and how Montreal has reportedly contacted him and his camp as to whether or not he could be or would be a goaltending option for the future. Goaltending just hasn't been where it's needed to be for the Montreal Canadiens this season. You can say that there are some guys that have shown off better than others. You can say that Jacob Fowler needs an extended look. There are a number of opinions you can have about the way the Canadiens' goaltending has gone down this year. But ultimately, when it comes to the guys that are already in the organization and that needed to step up, they haven't really stepped up. Dobish has been hot and cold. Montembeault has been cold. And you can say that Eric Raymond is the guy that should be to blame for that. The article press release on the Canadiens website says that Marco Marciano will serve as the interim goalie coach until the end of the season. Marciano joined the Canadiens organization back in 2013 when he was hired as the video coach for the Canadiens' AHL team, the Hamilton Bulldogs. He was then appointed goalie coach for the St. John's Ice Caps in 2015, prior to joining the Laval Rocket as goalie and video coach for their inaugural season in 2017. So, seems like Marciano has worked his way up from AHL hockey to NHL goaltending interim coach. We'll see whether or not he does a better job with these guys. And I know what you might be thinking. Some might be asking, hey, does this really make that big of a difference? And are goalie coaches really that impactful on the outcome of goaltending as a whole for a team? And I would honestly say, yeah. As a guy sitting here in Vancouver, British Columbia, we saw Ian Clark be the main goaltending coach for a number of guys and bring out the absolute best of them. Eddie Lack, Jacob Markstrom, Corey Schneider, heading into the Markstroms and the Demkos, all these guys were really darn good under Ian Clark. But then, when they ended up leaving, when they went to other organizations and Ian Clark was no longer the guy mentoring them, we saw some guys fall off. Hard. Artur Shilovs is in Pittsburgh, he's alright. Jacob Markstrom is having a pretty bad year. There are a number of other examples, but those are just the two that come to my mind right away. Long story short, goaltending coaches do matter, and I do think that Canadiens fans, should they see a significant difference in the quality of goaltending heading into the next few weeks, this is where we're going to start understanding why. With that said, though, hey, this is all up to Sammy Montembeault now. It's all up to him. Screw the goaltending coach, it ultimately boils down to you who was in the crease, so we'll see whether or not he is able to take it and run with it, if he's able to learn some new things and become a number one again. You gotta remember, at the very least, Sammy Montembeault was never supposed to be a number one. The fact that he even was a number one for a time last year is a miracle in and of itself, because he was acquired via waivers, so just don't count your chickens before they hatch, Montreal. Does that do anything to appease Habs fans in terms of the goaltending woes of this team? No, but I do think it's an appropriate rationalization of Sammy Montembeault and his skill set. With that said, speaking about former Florida Panthers and former Montreal Canadiens, let's head over to the Detroit Red Wings and talk about their contract signing today, because the Wings ended up signing Ben Chiarot to a 3-year, $3.85 million AAV extension. the guy's gonna be sticking around with the Detroit Red Wings till 2029. And I know right away you might be saying, wait a minute, this is a guy who's already kind of like, he's old, isn't he? And yeah, that's true. Ben Chiarot is 34 years old. He'll be signed on till he is 37. So I guess that really goes to show you how desperate the Red Wings are to have left-handed defensemen around in their organization. For what it's worth, this is what JFresh tweeted about in regards to the Chiarot extension. He's a physical, veteran D-man. Despite having good size, decent mobility, and some puck-carrying ability, his team tends to get completely wrecked when he's on the ice, and his partners tend to fare much worse next to him. And it shows that he has a 0 percentile wins above replacement number, which, if you're paying attention to it, that's not good. That is not good at all. It is literally worst in the league territory. And while I'm not going to go so far and say that Ben Chiarot is that, I do think that for the Detroit Red Wings, there is a role that he has, and the Wings are comfortable with him being in that role. They acknowledge their shortcomings, the lack of options on the left-hand side defense core, and so a guy like Ben Chiarot is pretty necessary, unless the Wings are able to go out there and literally just get other guys. Now, you could talk about some of the different opinions here. The Grindline guy said that the AAV is great, 3.85. Not a huge fan of the term. The saving grace is that it should be easily movable if you need to trade the contract in a year or so. He would make an excellent third left defense if you trade for a second left defense that's needed. And then you have other folks saying, yeah, solid player, he's worth this, rewarded for a stellar year so far, I love it. 3 more years of Benny cross-checks and veteran intensity. My blood pressure wasn't ready for this news today, but my heart is happy he is staying in Hockeytown. So, again, analytical darling? Absolutely not. Ben Chiarot has some of the worst advanced analytics out there, but in the context of what he is supposed to be, I think a lot of Red Wings fans are very happy to see him come back. And this, of course, tickles the Montreal Canadiens fan inside of me too, because, hey, Ben Chiarot got the Habs a first once upon a time when he was traded over to Florida. So that's a pretty solid piece of Habs history there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these two pieces of news, the goaltending coach firing of Montreal, and whether or not you think that's actually going to make a difference. And then let me know your thoughts in the comments as well. How do you feel about Ben Chiarot and his contract extension? He's going on till 2029, baby. Ben Chiarot is in Detroit, pretty much to end off his career, I would say. I gotta go, because as you could probably tell, my voice, it's not really getting, like, significantly better. It still hurts. There's a lot more stuff clogged up in there in my sinuses, so obviously this cold, it's not letting me down easy, I guess I should say. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about all these things. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.